Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. This week, I want to talk to you about building momentum in your training. This is a concept that's really crucial, in my opinion, for all athletes to understand, but it's easy to grasp as a concept, and it can be really difficult to actually apply and feel week to week in your training. The reason it's so hard to apply this concept of building momentum and recognizing when you're actually doing it is because it's a feeling more than anything else. It's not necessarily a specific training strategy. So I want to help you understand how you can build training momentum and what it looks and feels like so that you can begin to work towards getting into that sweet spot with your training. I think it's really crucial for athletes to be able to get into this place where they're building momentum. If you don't, very often you end up being stuck as kind of this forever intermediate where you're not making any real progress. Now, hopefully all of us have had the experience of riding our bicycle outside. If not, please pause the video and seek professional help. But most of us have had the experience of riding our bike on a flat surface and you're approaching a steep hill. And so you want to build up as much speed as possible so that you can get up this hill as easily as possible, because you know it's going to be tough if you just start this really steep incline at a slow pace. And once you build up that speed and hit the incline, you keep going, but it's a lot easier than it would have been had you started from zero or with a really slow pace and then tried to go up the hill. And that's kind of the sensation that we're going for. When you first hit that hill and you've got a good amount of speed built up and you're still pedaling, but you're riding a lot of the energy that you built up while you were still on the flat surface. So you're still having to work hard to propel yourself up this hill, but you're riding a lot of this energy and momentum that you've built up previously, and now you're just trying as hard as you can to maintain the speed that you've achieved while you're going up the hill. Now that I think of it, maybe this video should have been called Maintaining Momentum instead of Building Momentum, but I don't want to read too much into this metaphor, and I'm not a physics guy, so let's not get crazy. The point is, that feeling that you have when you first hit that hill and you're working as hard as you can to maintain that speed that you've built up, so it's challenging, but you feel like you have this force assisting you and you're kind of riding the wave of that force. That's the feeling that we're going for. And I don't know if that's helpful at all to you. Maybe I've derailed the whole video, but we'll see. So to take this metaphor, however bad it might be, back into the gym and try and conceptualize what this looks like with your actual training, you want to find a sweet spot where you're pushing hard and things are challenging, but you're not going 100%, because when you go 100%, that's really difficult to recover from. And we want to be able to have many training sessions day after day, week after week, so that we can build and have that momentum continue. And we also don't want to go too easy and come to a full and complete stop and then have to break inertia again, because that's difficult. And we know if we're going too easy, we're not really going up that hill. We're not making any real progress. And so we have to find that place in the middle where we can keep the momentum going and keep it going for as long as possible. Hopefully at least 3 to 4 weeks, more likely 5 to 6 weeks if we're in a good place, before we have to do something like a deload. And any halfway decent strength program is going to have mechanisms built in so that you can get into that sweet spot where you're doing enough but not too much, and help you stay in that sweet spot for as long as possible. You may have looked at a strength program like this one, where it starts at 5 sets of 5 and then eventually tapers off to 1 set of 5, and asked yourself, why can't I just stay at 5 sets of 5 for the entire thing? And technically you can do whatever you want. It's a free country. But what happens is, if you try and do 5 sets of 5 for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, you're eventually going to run into a wall where you can't add any more weight and also complete all the reps and sets. So the question then becomes, how can I continue to make my training harder while also making it sustainable. Because I don't want to train for 2 or 3 weeks, then have to take a deload. I want to keep this going for at least a little bit longer. And so one of the mechanisms that is built in many, many strength programs is as the intensity or the weight on the bar increases, the volume goes down. And that allows you to continue to add weight in a sustainable manner so that you can keep training harder, but not go so hard that now you're failing reps, you're not getting in all the work, and you maybe have to back off. And I want to share with you 2 mistakes that I see that are really common when somebody's sabotaging their ability to build and maintain momentum in their program. They'll get to week 2 of a strength progression like this one, and for the first example, they'll get bored and they'll say, you know what, I really don't want to do this anymore, so I'm going to jump over to a different program and try something else. And that's fine. You can try whatever you want to try, but you haven't given yourself enough time to build and maintain the momentum with this progression. And so now you're trying something pretty new, and you're going to have to break inertia with that and then build up and maintain momentum with that different plan. And if you do that, which a lot of people do every 2 to 3 weeks where you're program hopping, you never get the momentum going and you don't reach success because you're not sticking with a plan. And if you're constantly moving around all the different training variables, it doesn't allow you the time you need to get better at one specific thing, and it also doesn't allow you to find a signal in the noise. If you're constantly pressing buttons and turning dials in the machine, how can you know what's doing what? You're constantly changing everything. So you have to stick with something for the 3 to 6 weeks that it calls for so that you can, 1, build the momentum, but 2, see, did this work? And if it didn't work, now you have a good idea, well, maybe I can change this and that because I kept all these variables relatively similar. And it's easy for me to identify, maybe I need more volume, maybe I need more frequency, because you tried this one specific plan, you stuck with it, and you didn't hop around a bunch. The other example is somebody that gets to week 2 and maybe their friends come to town and now they want to max out and they want to do 10 back off sets after they max out. And again, that's fine, you can do that, but that comes with a price. Now your body's in a state of fatigue because you did this really, really intense, almost to failure or to failure workout. And so you're not necessarily going to be able to go the next week and do the amount of weight for the prescribed reps and sets because you did this to the death workout a few days or a week previous. And so that throws off your momentum. That throws off your ability to maintain the momentum because you're in this big fatigue debt. And when you're tired, when your body's fatigued and recovering, it's not going to be able to perform how it usually does because you went that 100%. Now you're tired and you have to back off in the intensity or the volume. So even though there's a million different ways to make progress, and I definitely don't want you guys to leave with the impression that you have to follow some plan on paper exactly to the T as it's written in order to make progress, because that's not the case. When you're constantly switching around exercise selection and intensity and volume, and you don't stick with some sort of progression, some sort of consistent plan, you don't allow your body the ability to go through that process of stimulus, recovery, adaptation, and slowly getting better because you're, in a sense, always resetting. You're always having to break inertia. So now that we've talked about some of the ways that guys sabotage themselves from building momentum, let's talk about what momentum actually feels like when you're doing it correctly and you are building and maintaining momentum. The first thing I want you guys to keep an eye out for is, can I do what I'm doing for 4 to 6 weeks? Can I follow this progression for the amount of time that is required to complete it and get to the end of it? Because if you're adding too much weight or too much volume at one time, Usually by week 2 or 3, you're going to realize that I can't continue to add weight to this while still completing whatever the amount of sets and reps is that I'm supposed to do. So that means you have to start at a point that's a little bit easier so that you can continue throughout the entirety of the program for those 4 to 6 weeks. And that is allowing you to maintain that momentum. And so if you get to week 2 or 3 and you're failing reps and you're stuck, that means we have a problem and we need to make an adjustment. And that gets me kind of jumps to the third point, which is don't fail reps. That's an indicator, again, that you're going too heavy. You're going too hard. Once in a while, it's okay to fail reps, but you should not be failing reps consistently. For you guys who are a little bit older, or maybe you've got some injuries under your belt, you should feel okay when you leave the gym. You shouldn't feel in pain. You shouldn't feel sensitive. Things shouldn't feel beat up all the time. That's a natural part of training. You're going to feel that way sometimes, but if every single week you're in pain and things hurt, or just in general things don't feel good, that's not how it's supposed to be. You shouldn't feel fantastic, but you shouldn't feel on the edge of an injury all the time. And that's another symptom of, if I'm in a place where I constantly feel pain or sensitivity or things just feel terrible all the time, maybe you're not picking a volume and intensity level that's appropriate for you and allowing you to build and maintain momentum like you need to in order to be successful. So these are certainly not the end of the story, but these are three indicators that I think are really helpful for the vast majority of people. If you can seek to abide by these three things, then I think you're going to be a lot more successful. And even if you don't necessarily hit the PRs you're looking for right away, if you can continue to look for those three things, can I continue doing what I'm doing for 4 to 6 weeks? Am I failing reps? Am I in pain? Am I injured all the time? If you can abide those, then you're going to be headed in the right direction. Because ultimately progress is going to come not from these fantastic sessions where you hit a PR and everything's amazing. They're going to come from okay sessions. This is Jim Wendler's famous thing. Have decent sessions where things aren't awful. And if you can just accumulate a lot of these decent sessions where you do 5 or 10 pounds more than you did the week before, and you can just string as many of those together as you can, that's what's ultimately going to lead to you having these elite performances, is building that momentum, maintaining the momentum for as long as possible. I apologize if this video feels all over the place. I was trying to make a point, and maybe I didn't make it very clear. But hopefully you're able to grab something from this video, apply it to your training, and see success. If you like the video, please like, subscribe. Maybe I just need to not use metaphors in the future. Maybe that's where we made the mistake here. I don't think my IQ is high enough for metaphors yet. So in the next video, we'll just stick to something more concrete. We'll keep our feet on the ground. But thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.